Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to uncover 10 fascinating facts about the Chernobyl nuclear disaster and how this event still impacts the world today. To do that, let's go back in time. On April 26, 1986, the world's worst nuclear disaster occurred at the Chernobyl power plant in Ukraine. Unlike the Fukushima nuclear crisis in 2011, the explosion at Chernobyl's reactor was caused by human error. Before we move on with this video, I ask you to support my channel with a like. Costs nothing for you, but it means a lot to me and the channel. Thank you. On the fateful day of the Chernobyl explosion, the plant's fourth reactor, located at the Vladimir Ilyich Lenin nuclear power station, was scheduled for routine maintenance. Engineers and workers planned to conduct tests to check if the reactor could be cooled in case of a power failure. This was a standard safety measure to ensure the reactor's stability. However, during the tests, multiple violations of safety protocols occurred. Workers disabled essential devices and ignored critical warning signs indicating a dangerous rise in the reactor's temperature. These reckless actions led to the reactor's core overheating, triggering a devastating chain of events that culminated in the nuclear catastrophe. As the events leading to the Chernobyl disaster unfolded, the explosions inside the plant resulted in the direct exposure of the nuclear core. The reactor's core was left exposed, releasing a massive cloud of radioactive material into the air. This lethal cloud spread rapidly across the region, releasing dangerous radioactive elements that contaminated the soil and surrounding areas. The continuous radiation exposure posed an imminent danger to plant workers, firefighters, and rescue teams trying to contain the situation. The toxic atmosphere caused by the explosions and ongoing radiation release extended over vast areas, severely affecting the health and well-being of thousands of people living nearby. The consequences of this massive radiation release were both immediate and long-lasting, making Chernobyl the site of one of the worst nuclear disasters in history. Despite the imminent risks and the rapid spread of radiation caused by the explosions, Soviet authorities failed to act quickly to evacuate the local population. The delay of about 36 hours after the disaster began resulted in prolonged radiation exposure for thousands of people living nearby. The inaction of the authorities significantly increased the number of victims and had a lasting negative impact on public health and safety, with many people facing severe physical and mental health consequences for years to come. After approximately 335,000 people were evacuated from the area affected by the Chernobyl disaster, Soviet authorities faced an unprecedented challenge. Managing the growing number of victims, both those who suffered direct radiation exposure and those indirectly affected by the accident, became an urgent priority. The scale of the tragedy soon became clear. More than 30 people initially died as a result of the explosion, while over 100 were hospitalized and more than 1,000 received medical treatment for radiation exposure. The total number of deaths and those affected by radiation remains uncertain to this day, with widely varying estimates ranging from a few thousand to hundreds of thousands. The lack of transparency from Soviet authorities at the time contributed to the uncertainty surrounding the true human impact of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. The Chernobyl tragedy remains an indelible mark in Cold War history and nuclear events. More than 30 years after the disaster, scientists estimate that the exclusion zone, which extends about 19 miles in radius, will remain uninhabitable for at least 3,000 years. The high levels of radioactive contamination in the region pose a constant threat to human health and the environment. Continuous containment and monitoring efforts are crucial to mitigating the effects of radiation and ensuring future generation safety. It is estimated that cleanup and decontamination efforts in Chernobyl will continue until at least 2065, with the total cost estimated at around $235 billion. Following the Chernobyl disaster, an area known as the Red Forest emerged near the nuclear power plant. This location earned its name due to the reddish coloration that many trees developed after absorbing high levels of radiation. Surprisingly, despite the devastation caused by the accident, the Red Forest has transformed into a unique and peculiar natural sanctuary. Various animal species, including wolves, bears, eagles, lynxes, and moose, have found a safe haven in the Red Forest, away from human interference. This explosion of biodiversity is considered an enigmatic consequence of the Chernobyl disaster, demonstrating how nature can adapt and thrive amidst the. After the city of Pripyat was evacuated due to the Chernobyl nuclear disaster in 1986, the region became a landscape frozen in time. What was once a bustling and thriving urban center is now a ghost town filled with mystery and desolation. Abandoned buildings, empty parks, and silent schools create the haunting image of Pripyat. One of the most iconic locations is the city's amusement park, which was never inaugurated due to the nuclear disaster. The Ferris wheel and other rides remain untouched, covered by the veil of time and radiation. Deserted residential streets hold memories of the past, bearing witness to the overwhelming impact of the tragedy that forced thousands of people to flee their homes. The eerie silence of Pripyat stands as a constant reminder of the devastating consequences of nuclear energy. One of the critical structural flaws of the Chernobyl power plant was the absence of a containment building to protect the nuclear reactor. Unlike other modern nuclear plants, Chernobyl lacked a strong enclosure capable of containing and absorbing radiation in the event of an accident. The containment structure, essential for preventing the spread of radioactive material into the environment in critical situations, is a fundamental safety element in nuclear power plants. Furthermore, the plant lacked effective emergency systems that were properly connected and ready to be activated in times of crisis. The failure to implement these basic safety measures significantly contributed to the scale and severity of the disaster that unfolded on April 26, 1986. After the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, more than 600,000 workers, known as liquidators, were deployed to carry out cleanup and decontamination operations in the affected area. These brave and dedicated individuals faced extremely hazardous conditions and were exposed to high levels of radiation while performing their tasks. The liquidators worked tirelessly to contain the damage caused by radiation, remove radioactive waste, and minimize the environmental impact of the disaster. Their heroic and self-sacrificing efforts were crucial in mitigating the adverse effects of the Chernobyl nuclear accident, even though they faced significant risks to their own lives and health. Despite the warnings and obvious dangers, around 130 to 150 people defy the prohibitions and continue to live illegally in a small village called Zelishany, near the Chernobyl power plant. These clandestine residents are primarily elderly women who refuse to leave their ancestral lands, continuing to farm and care for their animals. Even with numerous restrictions and the risks involved in remaining in the highly contaminated region, they choose to ignore the authorities' warnings and persist in their abandoned homes. Additionally, a few miles outside the exclusion zone, new informal settlements have emerged, where individuals seek to live outside established norms, defying the radiation-imposed limits. These cases paint a complex picture of human resilience in the face of the devastating consequences of the nuclear disaster. If you enjoyed these Chernobyl facts, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more interesting videos. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the curiosities surrounding the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Comment below which facts surprised you the most. See you in the next video.